Hello there, it's Jan from JB Crafts. Thank you for joining me today. I'm back with a new tutorial for you today, and everything green today. I thought, seeing as it's St. Patrick's Day next week, I'd pop one in there that's just got that sort of kind of good luck theme to it. It's not something that I normally celebrate, but I just thought, I've got a little shamrock die there. I thought we'll go with the greens today, and we've got quite a little bit of texture on this one, so it's a different card style again, and it measures 7.5 by 5.25, so slightly bigger than the normal 7 by 5, but it would fit in a larger envelope that you could make with your envelope makers. And it's got a fold here. I'm going to call it a book fold, I think. So it's got a spine here where the card only opens part way instead of it opening normally on the fold on here. So yeah, I've got this piece is actually stuck, and then it opens up like so to reveal the space inside. Haven't popped the insert in yet. I have got that partially done. I'm not sure whether I want to do anything else to it yet, but we've got some nice texture going on. We've got the ribbon, we've got a little bit of twine and an eyelet in the tag there with some vellum underneath. I've got a little bit of embossed texture. I've done the glossy cardstock with my clear packing tape. I'm going to show you how I've done that today, and then, as I say, just a few gems there to finish off, drawing your eye through that sentiment there. So this is what we're going to be making today. Nice and straightforward, nothing fancy about it today. I've also got I don't know whether you guys can see that or not. Let me just see if I can do it with the light on my my camera for you, because it's got some of my new distress spritzers on, and if I just pop the torch on there, you can certainly see the glitter card on the matte layer, but in the corners and on here I've just spritzed it with some. I've got a couple of new colours with my distress spritz, so I will show you that and see how that shows on. You'll be able to see it on the other piece as we dry it. So we'll pop that one to one side. I'll bring in some of the pieces for the base, and I've used some cream linen cardstock today for this one. And I've cut two identical pieces at 7.5 inches long by 5.25 inches long, and then I've scored it down this left hand side at 1.25 inches. So I've just come in here with my scoreboard and come into 1.25 and popped a score line down that long side there. So that's going to get us started for the card base. So we'll just pop that to one side. Now these are both a linen texture, but I'm going to turn them so that the plain side is on the inside. That way I've got the linen on the outside and the inside. And then I've popped some tape on the back of here. So where I've scored it, we're just going to fold it and get that line in place there. Don't have to fold it right back on itself, because I just want it to open for the actual card here. So you can fold it and burnish it if you wish, just to get that card moving. And then I've put a couple of lines of double-sided tape on here, and we're going to stick these two together to make our actual card blank. So I'm going to line them up at the bottom here. They've both been cut together in the guillotine, so they should fit together nicely, making sure that everything's lined up. And then I am just going to use my burnishing tool there to give that tape a nice press and make sure that it's adhered to the card there. So you can see now that we've got that slightly unusual fold on the card. And then we've got some mats and layers. So I've used craft card as a background for this one, and I'm going to pop a piece on that front panel that opens here, which now measures 6 by 5.25. So my panel here just measures 6 by 5. So this is going to be my first layer. And then I chose some paper from a new paper pad that I picked up the other day. I know I'm always laughing and joking about buying new paper pads, and I was in our local one of our local stores, and whoops a daisy, landslide, and yeah, picked this one up. It was just, this is me all over. It's almost like doing the inked backgrounds, but they're already done for you. So Art Studio Vintage Grunge, and I think, yeah, this is from the range here in the UK. But you know, you're getting 24 sheets of paper for £3.99. Who wouldn't buy them? And they are lovely abstract designs, and this is the kind of thing that I like. So if I'm not in the mood to get the inks out and start inking, I can use one of these as a background, and that's exactly what I've done. I've taken a piece of that dark green, which was this one in the middle here, and this is, I've got half of it left, so I can use that on another project. And then I've cut the pieces for my design, and this is the one that I want to spritz. So before we stick anything together, I'm going to pop these to one side for a second, and I've just purchased a couple more of these. I buy these from Craft Stash here in the UK to add to the collection. I've got Lumberjack Plaid, which is one of my favourite reds. I've not used that one yet. And then Rustic Wilderness, which is a really nice shade of green. And these have got that beautiful pearlescent mica in here within the suspension. So we do need to give it a good shake to make sure that all that mixture is literally mixed inside. Otherwise, the minute that you try to spray, it'll suck the mica up the nozzle and end up blocking the nozzle. So you do want to make sure that you've agitated, shake it, roll it, swirl it round, whatever you want to do with it, until you can see the base of the bottle. I can see that the base of that bottle's all clear now. And I brought my very sophisticated splat box. I've had this for years. I keep considering making one of the ones with the high back and then forgetting all about it. But yeah, all I'm going to do is just very, very lightly. The closer you spray, the more intense it will be. Now, I only want it very light, so I'm going to come further back. I'm probably about 8 to 10 inches away from the cardstock, and I'm just going to give it a little spritz to give it that little bit of shimmer. And I always clean the nozzle to make sure there's nothing blocked in there when I finish with them. So that's that one finished. And then I am going to bring out the heat tool. You can leave this to dry by all means, but just for the purpose of the video, I am going to use the heat tool just to dry this off. And once it's dry, you should be able to pick that lovely shimmer. And again, it's an optional step. You know, you might not have these. You might want to, I know some people like to splatter with paints and things like that. Whatever you've got in your stash, if you do like the idea of this as a technique, then you can use your own stash. Now, I've lifted it out of the box. I'm just going to move the box out of the way, because once you leave them on a flat surface, it does start and warp the paper because the heat has nowhere to go. So if you lift it out and lift it away from a surface, the heat can get through the paper or the cardstock, she says, putting her finger in it, and it doesn't do as much damage with the warping, I find. So yeah, I'm just going to leave that to dry. There are some quite larger sort of blobs on there, one of which I've just stuck my finger in, but I think we're okay. So just because we're on video and we are on a time, I'm going to just dab some of those larger ones. It's not going to get rid of the shine, but it will get rid of any excess moisture there, and it will help with that drying time. Now I can see that shimmer coming through here now. I'll just hold it up to the camera in a second when we've dried. There's a bit more there, and I think that should be good to go. So again, you know, it's just literally, look at that. I'm hoping the camera's picking that up now. All those gorgeous little splats with that lovely shimmer. And that Rustic Wilderness was a perfect match for the paper, even though they're two different brands. So what we're going to do now then is get that one onto our matte layer. Okay, and because I've used some wet medium on there, I am actually going to pop a couple of layers of tape as well as my usual glue, just so that those edges lay flat. If I wasn't doing this on video, I would probably trap that piece of paper under something heavy just to help it flatten out again and sort of restore it back to its original state. But because we're going to pop this straight together, I've just popped a couple of pieces of my wide tape on there, and then I'm going to use my all-purpose glue. As always, my favourite one for using on paper and cardstock. So we'll get that one ready, and then we'll take the liner from here. and the tape just helps it lay flat. Obviously the glue has got a drying time on it, so just by having those couple of pieces of tape on there, it will help that piece lay flat while we're waiting. So I'm going to go with the usual glue. I'm going to go over the tape as well. And because that craft card's quite fibrous as well, I want something that I know is going to stick down well. And then I've just left a 1/4 of an inch border. This piece measures 5 3/4 by 4 3/4 there. Pop that down and then give it a good press without trying to, I don't think there's any wet elements left on the paint, but I don't want to risk smudging anything if there is. So I'm just going to pop it on there and give it a good press from the back. Make sure it's all nice and flat. And then we're good to go. So you can see now we've got that gorgeous sort of splatter on there. And now this one can actually come onto our card. So I'm going to use that same glue. And we're going to just add this onto the front now. So that's going to fit the panel that opens on here. And I want the dark corner of the paper to be in that bottom right hand corner there. And again, get that one pressed down. Make sure it's all made contact. I've got a little bit of glue seeping out there, but we can get rid of that. And that's the front element of the card. And then what I want to do is actually create a panel for the edge of here. So I've done pretty much the same thing. I've cut my piece of craft card. So this was 1 1/4. So I've cut the craft card at 1 inch, and then it was 5 1/4 tall. So it'll be 5 inches here. And then I've just used a scrap off the end of this paper to go on here, and then I've got some nice gingham ribbon, and I just thought that was a nice touch for this particular card. So I've used that and wrapped it round ready so that we can just stick this on the back. Now again, because there is ribbon on there, I'm going to pop a piece of my tape down the middle just to secure the ribbon as well and make sure that that doesn't go anywhere. And then I'll pop a little bit of glue as well, just so that we've got that longevity with the stick. So that's going to make sure that the ribbon's sealed. Now I haven't stuck the ribbon on the front because we are going to tie a small element through the front of it as well. So this bit at the moment is actually loose, but once we stick it down, it's going to be nice and taut over there. So yeah, I'm just going to run a little tiny bit of glue down each side, just to help me get that positioned. And then we've got the same border around there as what I have on the edge of the card there. So we'll get that one popped in place. And that's pretty much my matte layers complete there. So you can see we've got the beginnings of the card. So for the embellishment then, we'll just pop that to one side for a second. And for the embellishments, I've got a couple of bits and pieces going on here that I've cut ready. So my actual background piece here, I've cut with these 2 dies. If I turn them round better that way for you, you can see here. And these are from one of my Crafters Companion collections. They're actually from the Layout collection. Any of you that got that, let me just take the tags out so that you can see them. There is a smaller one, but I used the 2 outside layers. I just thought it was a really nice, interesting shape for this one. And I've cut those in the glitter card. So I've got a nice pale green glitter card that just sat nicely against that dark green background. And then I've cut the top one out of the same creams cardstock as the card base. And I've just popped that one through an embossing folder. I just chose some dots. I just wanted a random pattern so that it didn't interfere with what was going on the surface. But I just wanted a little bit of texture in there just for an extra sort of addition to the card. So those are going to go on the front of here. I also used one of the tags, that's the same collection, the Layout collection, and I've used the next to the largest one and cut out a vellum tag. So I've got that ready with an eyelet and some twining, and I have got some tape on the back of here which will disappear when we stick it onto here. And then we're going to cut those little shamrocks out. So I said I'd show you the technique with the tape. So this is just clear packing tape, and all I am going to do is stick it over my cardstock. So I'm going to put a piece on that side, trim it off, and then I'm going to go, in fact we'll wrap that round the corner so that it's not going to stick to the desk there. So I'm just going to wrap it round the back because we're going to die cut from this. But what it does is it gives you a nice shiny finish on your card. So this is just a scrap of green card out of my stash. And now I've lost the end of my tape. Where have you gone, you monkey? There you go. And I'm going to put another piece to fill that bottom edge as well, just across here. Oops. It wants to stick there apparently. So yeah, I wasn't far off. I am die cutting, so it doesn't matter if it doesn't quite meet in the middle. And then I usually just turn the corner over so that I can find that next time. And then again, we'll do the same with this one. I'm just going to wrap those spare pieces round the back, and then we've got this good to go for the die cutting element. So yeah, that's how I get that lovely glossy finish on the die cuts there. So we'll get rid of those pieces. We don't need those corners now. And I'm going to bring in those shamrocks now, and we're going to cut all 3 of those out of here. So I should be able to fit those on minus the seam in the middle there, yeah. And we'll get those cut out through the Gemini there. And that, you know, depending on what machine you've got, my Gemini cuts through this. It's not thick tape. The Gemini cuts through it perfectly. So depending on what machine you use, if it's not cutting through, just add a card shim in there and you should be good to go. So I'm just going to pop this on my cutting plate here, like so. I'm going to pop in my plates, and I'm going to pass this through my Gemini, which, as you know, sits behind me on that desk, just behind me there, within reach. Nice and easy. And then when we take these out, that should have cut through those perfectly. So let's just get rid of the plates and take those die cuts out of here now. So because I've got the tape on, I need to release the tape. One, two, three. Now we've got a couple of them still in the card and one of them in the die. That usually happens. So I'm just going to give that a drop. That usually does the trick. Pop those back on there for now. And then I usually put all these away when I've finished filming. And then these 2 we just need to pop out of the... But you can see how easy it's cut through there. There's no raggy edges or anything. And then if you want to cut anything else out of this before you discard it, you could punch some little flowers, you could die cut some flowers, you could die cut sentiment. You know, there is a little bit left on there, so depending on what you want to do with it. And then we've got our details here for the rest of the card. And then the last thing that I've got in my little pot is a sentiment and my extra piece of ribbon there. So those were the extra pieces that I need. Okie dokie. So what I'm going to do first is we'll actually make the topper first. So let's take the tape off the back of the tag here, and I've just used double-sided tape. I find this works pretty well with the vellum. It's probably one of the hardest things to stick down without things showing, but bearing in mind we're going to have things on top of it and we've got that texture going on underneath it, this actually worked quite well. So I want to put this centered this way on my tag, but to the right hand side slightly. So I'm just going to have a little bit of that cream showing and then stick that down. And like I said, once that's on there, there's not a massive amount of that tape showing. I can just see it briefly, but we're going to put some bits and pieces over the top of it. So I'm going to bring in my embellishment glue, and then we're going to use the shamrocks to create a little trio of them, and then just put these on top. So again, I want a little bit that embellishment glue on the back. And I am going to trim the stems slightly, so I'm not going to go all the way down with the glue. So I want one of them to come out this way. So the two larger ones point either way. So I've got those in position. So again, same again with this one. And again, just a little bit on the, and then I want this one to go sort of further across this way, like so. And then I'll just snip off those tails when we've finished. And then the little one I'm going to bring down in the middle here and just cross this over a little bit, I think. Yeah, so let's pop that one on. Same glue. And then this one's going to go just sort of like, I want these to cross just a little bit here, and hold that down for a second. And then we can snip those edges off. I don't want those to be that long. I'm just going to snip them away so that they're level with the base of the nesting dies there. I need a little tiny bit under there to secure that one. I'm also going to trim these when I put them on the card as well. And then this one, I think I'm going to put a little bit of my red line tape. Seeing as it's going over the top of that packing tape, we'll put a little bit of red line tape on here. I normally do this and get this prepared, but I obviously hadn't decided at the time. So yeah, we'll just pop that on there, take the liner away. And then this one I wanted to just sit through the middle of the shamrocks there. So I'm just going to pop that sort of pretty much across the middle of them, like so. And then on the back I've got a couple of pieces of foam tape just to elevate that sort of embellishment a little bit. It's only thin, it's only 1mm, so it's not a, you know, a massive adjustment, but just that little bit there. And I am going to pop, as usual, just to help, 2 or 3 drops of that glue as well. So then I'm going to position this one on the front. And again, at first I thought, does it want to go in the centre? But I actually liked it down in this corner here, just offset that little bit. So I'm going to pop it in the same position there. And now that that's on there, I can see how long the tails want to be on the tag there, so we can trim those out. And then last but not least, I'm just going to make my little faux bow on here. So rather than doing a proper one, I'm just going to go underneath, which is why I didn't fasten it down, and tie this. And then it creates the illusion that we've got that knot in the ribbon, when actually it's come from the outside edge there. And then all I'm going to do is just angle the edges of this at the length that I want it, just to give it that angle, and finish it off. Same on that side. And that's pretty much there with our card. Okay, so let's just put the glue lid on there. And you can see if I bring this one in again, you know, we're pretty much there. As always, on the sample, I always add my gems. So I just went into my stash and had a look for some that matched. I did think about doing coordinating ones, but I love, when I found these, I just love that depth of green. It echoes the little spots of the spritz in the background. So I'm going to come back to this one because I have made an insert. And I've kept it very, very simple. I didn't want to put a lot on the inside. I did think about adding one of the shamrocks, but then changed my mind. I just want to keep this nice and simple. So I've been in my drawer and grabbed one of my pigment inks that was a similar colour to the background, and I've just gone all the way round. Because these have a sponge pad, they're like a big sponge applicator, so I just go all the way around the edge. And what that's going to do is just lift it from that background so that you can see it's almost like having a faux skinny matte layer around it. And then I've just chosen a stamp that I thought was suitable, so wishing you joy, you're a blessing to me. I thought that fit in there nicely, and I'm going to go back to that all-purpose glue for this one and pop that right on the inside there. So you can, some people ask me why I do the inserts, you know, and some people really like that I do the inserts. So, you know, some people like to stamp on straight onto the back of the card. If you don't want to use an extra piece of card, that is absolutely fine here. But I've said many a time, the reason I like to add that extra layer of cardstock is just to give it some stability. When I first started card making, I'm a little bit of throw everything but the kitchen sink at a card, and I used to get to the point where the cards were sort of toppling over because they were heavy at the front. Now, by adding that extra layer in the back, it just strengthens the back of it so that you get a really nice sort of finish on them. And it's just a personal preference. As I say, if you don't want to use the extra cardstock, you can do this element. You could draw a frame line, you know, using a pen and a ruler around the outside if you wished, and then you could stamp this bit straight onto the back. Absolutely fine. I just like that as a finishing touch, and that is my card for St. Patrick's Day. So yeah, wishing you joy there. Green's not a colour that I use a lot, I must admit, but I really like how this one came out, and I like the craft card, just picking up that little bit of twine on there. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that one today. Nice and simple, straightforward. It could be done for any theme. It doesn't have to be for St. Patrick's Day. You know, you could change the colour theme. You could change the theme of the icons on the front, the sentiment. It could be done for any theme. So that's what I like to do, is just give you an idea as a starting point. And if you want to have a go, take it in whichever direction you want for your own crafting. So yeah, consider giving it a thumbs up if you've enjoyed that one, and I'll be back very soon with my next tutorial. So I'll see you later, guys. Bye bye.